Open ocean, night operations, somewhere at sea. The ocean was dark, no moonlight, no visible horizon, just black water stretching endlessly in every direction. For a US carrier strike group operating under strict emission control, this was routine. Night operations were expected. Silence was discipline, until it wasn't. The first alert on one of the escort ships, a quiet notification appeared on a console, then another, then several more, all pointing to the same anomaly. Something had changed in the water, not fast, not loud, but unmistakable. What the sensors saw. The sonar picture didn't show a torpedo, it didn't show debris, it showed mass. A large underwater object, previously deep and silent, was now rising, slowly, deliberately, directly within the broader operating area of the carrier group. Unverified, initial contact. Unverified open-source assessments later suggested the contact matched the acoustic profile of a Russian nuclear-powered submarine. No official confirmation was released, and the exact class remains unknown. But to the operators watching their screens, one thing was clear. This was not an accident. Why submarines don't surface by mistake? Submarines live by invisibility. Surfacing, especially near a hostile carrier group, is the opposite of stealth. It is a statement, and statements at sea are never made lightly. The carrier group reacts silently. No alarms echoed across decks, no sudden maneuvers. Instead, the carrier strike group tightened. Destroyers adjusted position by degrees, not miles. Data links synchronized. Sonar operators shifted focus from wide area search to precision tracking. Everything happened quietly, because silence keeps options open. The contact continues to rise. Then came the moment that triggered the internal escalation. The submarine breached the surface, not fully, just enough. A dark silhouette cut against the night sea, barely visible, but real. Unverified, visual confirmation. Some unverified reports later claimed surface radar and infrared sensors detected a partial sail structure consistent with Russian submarine design. These claims remain unconfirmed, but multiple sensors agreed on one fact: a submarine was now visible. Why this changed everything? A surfaced submarine near a carrier group creates a dilemma. Ignore it and risk signaling weakness. Confront it and risk escalation. Observe it and gather intelligence. The US Navy chose observation. For now, the night gets quieter. Flight operations slowed, not stopped, slowed. Combat air patrol fighters remained airborne, circling above, unaware of the full picture below the waves. Below deck, analysis intensified. Every second of the submarine's behavior was recorded. Heading, speed, angle to the carrier group, nothing was ignored. What the sub was really doing. A surfaced submarine is vulnerable, which raises the question, why do it? Possible explanations, none confirmed, began circulating among analysts. Unverified, possible motives, a deliberate signal of presence, a test of US detection and response timelines, a navigational maneuver conducted under observation, a strategic message timed for maximum visibility. No official explanation was offered, and none was required. The act spoke for itself. The most dangerous part, the most dangerous moment wasn't the surfacing, it was what followed. The submarine did not immediately dive. It stayed up. Minutes passed. Each minute increased risk and tension. The escorts close in carefully. Two destroyers adjusted course slightly, positioning themselves at the edges of the submarine's potential maneuver space. Not aggressively, not directly, just enough to say, "We see you." Unverified. Rules of engagement. Unverified reporting suggests commanders adhered strictly to peacetime rules of engagement, avoiding actions that could be interpreted as hostile. No ROE details were released publicly. Still, the posture was unmistakable. The submarine responds. Then, movement. The submarine altered heading, not toward the carrier, not away, parallel, a shadow move, as if matching the group's course without closing distance. Why this was a warning? Parallel movement signals awareness. It says, I know where you are, and you know where I am. In naval strategy, that's pressure, not aggression. The carrier holds course. The carrier did not turn away, did not accelerate, did not retreat. Its massive hull continued forward, steady and unbothered. Confidence is a weapon too. What no one said out loud, everyone involved knew the stakes. A single miscalculation, a misread maneuver, a panicked response, any of it could spiral. And yet, discipline held. The night stretches on. For nearly an hour, the situation remained unresolved. A Russian nuclear submarine on the surface, a US carrier group watching, the ocean silent between them. No announcements, no headlines, just tension. The moment before everything changed. Then the submarine began to move again, this time differently. Its speed increased slightly, its its heading shifted, and its depth controls activated. The submarine was preparing to dive, but not straight down. Not yet. Something else was about to happen. Something that would force the carrier group to reassess everything they thought this encounter was about. Open ocean. Night. Continuation. The submarine didn't dive immediately. That hesitation mattered. Across the carrier strike group, analysts noticed the same detail at once. The ballast adjustment was controlled, deliberate, not urgent. This wasn't an escape, it was a maneuver. The dive that wasn't. Instead of slipping quietly back into the depths, the submarine leveled off just below the surface. Shallow, dangerously shallow. For a nuclear-powered submarine, this is the most exposed place to be, detectable by radar, infrared, sonar, and even the naked eye under the right conditions, which meant one thing: the submarine wanted to be tracked. Unverified depth assessment. Unverified OSINT later suggested the submarine stabilized at a depth consistent with periscope or sensor mast operations. No confirmation was released regarding sensor deployment, but the implication was unmistakable: the carrier group's internal shift. At this point, the encounter crossed an invisible threshold. This was no longer passive observation. This was intentional signaling. Inside the strike group's command spaces, posture changed, subtly but decisively. Tracking priority elevated, sensor bandwidth narrowed. Every escort ship focused on one object: the submarine. Why this moment was so dangerous? Submarines and carriers exist in opposite worlds. One hides, the other dominates. When a submarine chooses visibility near a carrier, it collapses that balance and creates uncertainty. Uncertainty is where mistakes happen. The escorts take control of the water. Two destroyers shifted again. This time, the movement was unmistakable. They did not charge. They did not threaten. They positioned themselves to control space, narrowing maneuver options, defining boundaries. The message was clear: this encounter will happen on our terms. Unverified ASW posture. Unverified reporting suggested the escorts activated additional anti-submarine warfare ASW systems in passive mode only. No active sonar pings were publicly confirmed. Silence still mattered. The submarine responds again. Then the submarine did something unexpected. Instead of diving deeper, it turned. A slow, measured turn, aligning its course more closely with the carrier group's direction of travel. Parallel, persistent, shadowing. Why shadowing is a power move. Shadowing a carrier doesn't threaten immediate attack. It threatens capability. It says, I can stay with you. I can track you. I can choose when to disappear. That's leverage. The air wing enters the picture. Above the dark water, aircraft were quietly repositioned, not launched in panic, not scrambled, just shifted, a chess move in the sky to complement the one below the waves. Helicopters configured for ASW loitered farther out, their presence implied rather than obvious. Unverified air ASW activity. Some unverified sources claimed ASW helicopters adjusted patrol zones during the encounter. No official flight activity logs were released. Still, the carrier group was now fully layered. The submarine makes its second mistake. Minutes passed. Then the submarine changed depth again, this time downward, but not fast and not deep. A staggered descent. To experienced analysts, this looked less like withdrawal and more like testing reactions. The command decision point. At this moment, US commanders faced a classic dilemma: act decisively and risk escalation, hold posture and risk appearing passive, signal capability without crossing a line. They chose the third, the signal without a single word. A destroyer altered speed slightly, not toward the submarine, not away, just enough to compress time and space. A maneuver only a trained observer would notice, but the submarine noticed. Unverified reaction timeline. Unverified analysis suggests the submarine adjusted depth shortly after this maneuver, indicating awareness of escort positioning. This remains speculative, but cause and effect were hard to ignore. The submarine dives, for real this time. Suddenly, the profile changed. Speed increased. Depth increased rapidly. Acoustic signature shifted. This was no longer signaling. This was disengagement. The submarine was leaving. Why the dive mattered more than the surfacing. Surfacing grabs attention. Diving ends the conversation. By choosing to dive after being fully tracked, the submarine confirmed two things. One, it had achieved its signaling objective. Two, it had no intention of forcing escalation. The The encounter was over, tactically, but not strategically. The shadow fades. As the submarine slipped deeper, sonar contact degraded, then weakened, then disappeared entirely. The water returned to darkness, but the carrier group didn't relax, because loss of contact doesn't mean loss of awareness. What the US Navy gained in encounters like this are data goldmines. Even without firing a shot, the carrier group collected acoustic signatures, maneuver behavior, reaction timelines, command and control rhythms, unverified intelligence value. Unverified reporting later suggested the encounter contributed to broader undersea intelligence assessments. No details were released, and such claims remain unconfirmed. Still, the value was undeniable. What Russia was really saying. This wasn't an attack. It wasn't even a threat. It was a reminder, a message that Russian submarines can approach, surface, and disengage near the most powerful naval assets on Earth. Whether that message landed the way it was intended is another matter. Why this could have gone very wrong had one ship misjudged distance, had one commander panicked, had one sensor been misread. The night could have ended very differently. This is how accidents become crises. The strategic balance holds for now. Instead, discipline prevailed. No escalation, no confrontation, no public accusation, just quiet professionalism on both sides. The aftermath unseen but critical. Hours later, the carrier group resumed normal operations. Flight tempo normalized, sensor focus widened, posture relaxed slightly, but analysis continued long after sunrise. Unverified, doctrinal impact. Some analysts believe incidents like this influence future ASW doctrine and training scenarios. These assessments are speculative and not officially acknowledged. Still, lessons linger. The big picture. This encounter wasn't about dominance. It was about limits. How close is too close? How visible is too visible? How much pressure is too much? On this night, both sides found the edge and stepped back. Final analysis. A Russian nuclear submarine surfaced near a US carrier group at night. It signaled presence, tested reactions, measured restraint. The US Navy responded not with force, but with control. And in modern warfare, control is power. Final thought. The most dangerous confrontations don't explode on camera. They unfold quietly, beneath waves, under darkness, guided by professionals who understand what's at stake. This night ended without headlines, which is exactly why it mattered.